The ice in Mia Velasquez's cocktail shaker rattled like distant thunder as she poured another perfect Manhattan. It was just past 9, and the anniversary party at Skyline Events was hitting its stride. Through the crowd, she spotted the birthday boy, her old college friend Julian, laughing with his arm around someone she hadn't met yet. What caught her eye wasn't Julian's infectious smile, but rather the quiet intensity of the man standing slightly apart from the celebratory chaos, observing everything with thoughtful eyes. "Another gin and tonic?" Mia asked a woman who had approached the portable bar. "Please, extra lime," the woman replied, giving Mia a friendly smile. "You're doing an amazing job keeping everyone happy." "Thanks," Mia said, expertly slicing a lime. "Bartending is my side gig, but I love it. Pays the bills while I finish my culinary program." As Mia handed over the drink, the woman leaned in conspiratorially. "See that man over there?" She nodded toward the observant stranger Mia had noticed earlier. "That's Yates Montgomery. He's Julian's business partner's brother. Rumor has it he's single and runs Global Innovation Partners." She winked before disappearing back into the crowd. Mia tried not to stare but couldn't help stealing glances at him while she worked. Tall with broad shoulders, he wore a perfectly tailored navy suit that suggested money without flaunting it. His dark hair was neatly styled, and when he smiled at something Julian said, it transformed his serious face entirely. 20 minutes later, as the crowd thinned momentarily around her bar station, that same man approached. "Your Manhattan looks perfect," he said, his voice deeper than she expected. "Could I trouble you for one?" Mia smiled professionally. "Of course. Sweet or dry vermouth?" "Dry with a touch of extra bitters," he replied, watching her hands as she worked. "I'm Yates, by the way, Julian's friend." "Mia, Julian's bartender," she replied with a small laugh, surprised by how easily their eyes met. "Also Julian's former classmate, but tonight I'm just mixing drinks." "A multi-talented woman," he commented, accepting the cocktail. "Julian mentioned you're in culinary school." Mia raised an eyebrow. "He mentioned me, just now, when I asked who was responsible for the best Manhattan I've seen in New York." His smile was warm, genuine, and made Mia momentarily forget she was supposed to be working. The moment was interrupted when Julian bounded over, clapping Yates on the shoulder. "I see you've met my bartender extraordinaire. Mia saved my party when our original mixologist canceled this morning." "Lucky for me," Yates said, raising his glass slightly. His eyes never left Mia's. "Yates here is the reason I could afford this ridiculous party," Julian continued. "His investment in my little app company changed everything." Mia's eyebrows rose. "Investment? I thought you worked with his brother." "Partner, not brother," Julian corrected. "And yes, Yates is CEO of Global Innovation Partners. They specialize in boring business talk that doesn't belong at your anniversary party," Yates interrupted smoothly. "I'd much rather hear about culinary school if Mia doesn't mind sharing." Before she could respond, a small commotion broke out as Julian's girlfriend arrived with the anniversary cake, and Julian was pulled away. Mia found herself momentarily alone with Yates, awareness crackling between them. "I should probably help with that cake," she said, though she made no move to leave. "Probably," Yates agreed, taking a sip of his Manhattan. "This is exceptional, by the way." "Just a basic recipe," Mia said with a shrug. "Nothing basic about perfect execution." His gaze was direct, appreciative in a way that made her cheeks warm. "When you're done with the cake, I'd love to hear more about your culinary ambitions." Mia nodded, suddenly feeling as though the evening had shifted into something unexpected. She spent the next half hour serving cake and refreshing drinks, but her awareness of Yates never diminished. He moved through the party with easy confidence, clearly respected by everyone there, but his eyes frequently found hers across the room. When there was finally a lull, he returned to her station. "So, culinary school, final semester at the Institute of Culinary Education," Mia explained, automatically wiping down her work surface as they spoke. "Specializing in farm-to-table sustainability." "Ambitious," he commented. "Any restaurant in particular you're aiming to work at after graduation?" Mia hesitated. "Actually, I'm hoping to open my own place eventually. Something small, focused on seasonal ingredients. Nothing fancy, but—" She trailed off, suddenly self-conscious about sharing her dreams with a man who probably invested millions without blinking. "But authentic," he finished for her. "The best places always are." She looked up, surprised by his understanding. "Exactly, though the economics are challenging. Finding affordable space in New York while maintaining quality is the eternal dilemma," he said with a nod. "I've invested in a few restaurants. The passion is critical, but so is the business model." "Hence the bartending gigs," Mia explained, gesturing to her setup. "Building capital while learning the trade." A group approached the bar then, and Yates stepped back. "Don't let me keep you from your work, but I'd like to continue this conversation if you're interested." Their eyes met again, and Mia felt that same electric charge. "I'd like that." For the remainder of the evening, Mia found herself hyper-aware of Yates's presence. When he spoke with others, his focus was complete, his laugh genuine. When he caught her eye across the room, something private seemed to pass between them. As the party began winding down around midnight, he approached her bar one final time. "When do you finish here?" he asked. Mia glanced at her watch. "About an hour. I need to clean up and inventory everything. Would you allow me to help? I'd like to take you for a late dinner after." "If you haven't eaten." The offer surprised her. "You want to help me clean a bar setup?" His smile was disarming. "I waited tables through college. I know my way around cleanup duty." This glimpse into his past intrigued her. "You don't strike me as someone who needed to work through school." "I didn't start with much," he said simply. "Everything came later." Something about his straightforward admission made Mia like him even more. "All right then, Mr. CEO, show me your bar breakdown skills." Together they worked efficiently, Yates proving surprisingly adept at the process. As they loaded the last of the supplies into Mia's car, she found herself reluctant for their time to end. "There's a great late-night place just around the corner," Yates suggested. "They serve breakfast all night, unless you're too tired." Mia should have been exhausted, but instead she felt energized. "I could eat. Let me just text Julian to let him know I'm finished." The diner was nearly empty when they arrived, just a few night owls scattered among the booths. They settled into a corner table, ordered coffee, and Mia suddenly realized she was having a late-night meal with one of New York's most successful CEOs while wearing bartender blacks and comfortable shoes. "I'm not exactly dressed for dining with someone like you," she admitted with a small laugh. Yates looked genuinely confused. "Someone like me, you know," Mia gestured vaguely. "CEO, investor, perfectly tailored suit that probably costs more than my monthly rent." "Ah," he nodded, understanding. "Would it help if I took off my tie?" Without waiting for an answer, he loosened it and slipped it into his pocket. "Better." The playful gesture made her laugh. "Much more approachable." "Good, because I find you very approachable, Mia Velasquez, and I'd like to get to know you better." His direct gaze made her heart skip. "Starting with why a talented chef in training is still tending bar when Julian tells me you're at the top of your class." Mia wrapped her hands around her coffee mug, surprised by his interest in her life. "The honest answer. My dad got sick 2 years ago, Parkinson's. Insurance covers some things, but not everything. The medical bills set back my restaurant savings plan." Yates nodded, his expression serious. Family comes first. How is he doing now? Stable. My mother handles most of his care, but I help when I can. She took a sip of coffee. What about your family? Were they in business too? A shadow crossed his face. My father was a mechanic, died when I was 14. My mother worked 2 jobs after that to keep us afloat. She passed away 5 years ago. I'm sorry, Mia said, recognizing the same shadow of loss she sometimes saw in her own mirror. She saw the beginning of my success, at least, Yates said, a soft smile replacing the shadow. Got to retire for those last few years. I bought her a house in Connecticut. Their conversation flowed easily after that, moving from family to favorite foods, from business challenges to culinary disasters. Mia found herself captivated by his intelligence and genuine interest in her thoughts. When their food arrived, omelets and hash browns, they continued talking as if they'd known each other for years rather than hours. I can't believe it's almost 3 in the morning, Mia finally said, glancing at her watch. I have class at 9. I've kept you up too late, Yates apologized. Let me drive you home. I have my car, then I'll follow you to make sure you get there safely. It's late, and you're tired. His concern seemed so natural that Mia found herself agreeing. Outside, as they prepared to part ways to their respective vehicles, Yates hesitated. Would you have dinner with me tomorrow? A proper dinner this time, not a middle-of-the-night diner special. Mia felt a flutter of anticipation. I'd like that. I'll pick you up at 7, he asked. Make it 7:30. My last class runs late on Fridays. He nodded, then reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. Thank you for making Julian's party memorable in ways he never intended. As promised, he followed her car back to her modest apartment building in Brooklyn, waiting until she was safely inside before driving away. Mia collapsed into bed, exhausted but unable to sleep as she replayed their conversations in her mind. She'd met wealthy men before working high-end bartending gigs in New York, made that inevitable, but Yates was different. There was substance beneath the success, a genuine quality that had nothing to do with his bank account. The next morning, bleary-eyed from too little sleep, Mia nearly convinced herself she'd imagined the connection between them. But at noon, a text arrived from a number she didn't recognize. Still on for 7:30. I know a place with an amazing chef who might inspire your restaurant dreams. Yates smiling, Mia texted back. I'll be ready, looking forward to it. The rest of her day passed in a blur of classes and anticipation. By 7, she was ready in a simple black dress that served for both special occasions and job interviews, her dark hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. When her buzzer rang at precisely 7:30, her stomach fluttered with nervous energy. Yates stood at her door holding a small potted herb plant rather than traditional flowers. Basil, he explained. You mentioned last night that you're growing an herb garden on your fire escape. The thoughtful gesture touched her deeply. Thank you. Most men would have just grabbed roses from a bodega. I'm not most men, he replied, his eyes warm as they took in her appearance. You look beautiful, Mia. The restaurant he'd chosen was elegant without being ostentatious, tucked away in a historic building in Greenwich Village. As they were led to their table, the chef emerged from the kitchen to greet Yates personally. One of my first investments, Yates explained after introducing Mia. Elena started with a food truck 5 years ago. Now she has 3 restaurants and a cookbook deal. Elena, a vibrant woman in her 40s, turned to Mia. Has he told you his secret yet? That he only invests in women-owned restaurants? Mia raised an eyebrow at Yates, who looked almost embarrassed. I didn't know that. Not exclusively, he clarified. But I've found women-led kitchens often create more sustainable business models, and the food is usually more interesting. He gave me a chance when 3 banks turned me down, Alina continued. Now I'll let you enjoy your dinner. Everything's on the house. Absolutely not, Yates insisted. We're paying full price. Your staff deserves their proper tips. Alina laughed. Fine, but I'm sending special courses. Anything for the man who believed in me. She disappeared back into the kitchen. You're full of surprises, Mia said once they were alone. Restaurant investor with a preference for women chefs wasn't on my CEO bingo card. I invest in people with vision and determination, regardless of gender, Yates explained. But yes, I've found some exceptional female chefs who just needed someone to take them seriously. He held her gaze. People like you. The directness of his statement caught her off guard. You barely know me. I know enough to recognize talent and drive when I see it. His smile softened. The rest I'm hoping to learn over dinner. The meal was extraordinary, with Alina sending out course after perfect course. They talked about everything from Mia's culinary philosophy to Yates's business challenges. She learned he'd built his company from scratch after developing an innovative supply chain management system. What had started as software had expanded into a venture capital firm specializing in sustainable businesses. What about your personal life? Mia asked as they lingered over dessert. Julian mentioned you're rarely seen at social events. I prefer meaningful connections to networking, Yates admitted. My work requires long hours, and when I'm not working. He hesitated. This might sound dull, but I restore vintage cars. My father taught me before he died. That doesn't sound dull at all, Mia said, touched by this connection to his past. It sounds like a way of keeping him with you. Yates looked at her with genuine appreciation. Most people just think it's an expensive hobby. Most people miss what matters, she replied simply. As they left the restaurant, the spring evening was unusually warm. Would you like to walk for a while? Yates asked. There's a small park nearby. They strolled side by side, occasionally brushing shoulders. When Mia shivered slightly as the breeze picked up, Yates removed his jacket and placed it around her shoulders. The gesture was old-fashioned but felt natural coming from him. Tell me about your restaurant dream, he said, as they found a bench overlooking a small fountain. Not the business plan, but the heart of it. What does it feel like in your imagination? No one had ever asked Mia that question before. It feels like coming home, she said slowly, searching for the right words. Like creating a place where the food tells a story about the seasons and the farmers and the history of the ingredients, where people connect over meals that matter. She looked down, suddenly self-conscious. That sounds idealistic, I know. Idealism backed by skill is powerful, Yates said quietly. The world needs more of that, not less. As they sat in comfortable silence, Mia became acutely aware of his presence beside her, the subtle scent of his cologne, the warmth of his arm against hers. When he finally turned to face her, the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. I'd like to see you again, he said simply. I'd like that too, she replied. He walked her home, and at her door he leaned down to kiss her cheek. The gentleness of the gesture was more intimate than any passionate embrace could have been. Good night, Mia Velasquez. Thank you for a wonderful evening. As she watched him walk away, Mia realized she was still wearing his jacket. She considered calling after him, then decided against it. A perfect excuse to see him again. Over the next 3 weeks, they fell into a pattern that felt both exciting and comfortable. Yates would pick her up after her classes or shifts, sometimes taking her to hidden culinary gems around the city. Other times simply walking through neighborhoods she'd never explored. On busy days when they couldn't meet, he'd send texts that made her smile, observations about his day or questions about hers. What impressed Mia most was how he listened. When she talked about her father's health struggles or her mother's exhaustion as his primary caregiver, Yates never offered empty platitudes or tried to fix things. He simply heard her, making her feel less alone with her worries. On their fifth date, he took her to his home, a stunning penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. But what captured Mia's attention wasn't the breathtaking view or expensive furniture. It was his kitchen. "This is incredible," she breathed, running her hand along the pristine countertops. Professional-grade appliances gleamed under soft lighting, and the pantry was stocked with high-quality ingredients. "Do you actually cook in here?" "Basic things," Yates admitted. "Nothing like what you could do." He hesitated. "Would you like to cook here sometime? I'd love to taste your food." The vulnerability in his request touched her. "I'd love to cook for you." Later that evening, as they sat on his balcony sharing a bottle of wine, Yates took her hand. "I have to go to California next week. Business meetings in San Francisco and Los Angeles. I'll be gone for 10 days. "Oh," Mia said, surprised by how disappointed she felt at the prospect of not seeing him. "Come with me," he said suddenly. "You have that break between semesters, right? We could make it part business, part pleasure. There are some incredible restaurants I'd love to show you." The spontaneous invitation caught her off guard. "I couldn't my bartending shifts. If it's about the income, I understand. But if it's just about the obligation, perhaps Julian would understand if you asked for time off." His eyes were hopeful. "Think about it. No pressure." That night, after he'd driven her home, Mia did think about it. 10 days traveling with a man she'd known less than a month seemed impulsive, even reckless. Yet she'd never felt so comfortable with anyone so quickly. There was a steadiness to Yates that made her feel safe, despite the whirlwind nature of their connection. The next morning, she called Julian to ask if he could cover her bartending shifts. "Take the trip," Julian insisted. "I've never seen Yates like this about anyone. He's always been married to his work." "It's moving pretty fast," Mia admitted. "Sometimes that's how you know it's right," Julian replied. "Life's too short for artificial timelines." 3 days later, Mia found herself boarding a private jet, still somewhat in disbelief. "Is this really how you always travel?" she asked as they settled into plush leather seats. Yates looked almost embarrassed. "Only for cross-country trips. It saves time, and time is my most valuable resource." He squeezed her hand. "Having you here makes it feel less like a corporate perk and more like part of a real life." The trip was a revelation. In San Francisco, while Yates attended meetings during the day, Mia explored the city's famous food scene. In the evenings, they dined at restaurants where chefs came to their table when they heard Yates Montgomery was in attendance. In Los Angeles, he took her to a sustainable farm-to-table restaurant that reminded her of her own vision. "The owner started with just 8 tables 5 years ago," Yates explained as they toured the kitchen. "Now they have their own farm that supplies 90% of their ingredients." As they walked through the attached greenhouse, Mia felt a growing certainty about her own path. "This is exactly what I want to create," she said quietly. "A complete circle from soil to table." "You will," Yates said with such confidence that she almost believed him. On their last night in California, they walked along the beach, shoes in hand as the waves lapped at their feet. The sunset painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, and Mia felt a perfect contentment she'd never experienced before. "I've fallen for you," Yates said quietly, stopping to face her. "These past weeks getting to know you, seeing the world through your eyes, it's changed something in me." He took both her hands in his. "I know it's been fast, but it feels right. Tell me you feel it too." Under the California sky with the Pacific stretching endlessly before them, Mia nodded. "I do. It scares me how much." His kiss was gentle at first, then deepened with a hunger that matched her own. When they finally pulled apart, breathless, Mia felt as though something fundamental had shifted in her world. Back in New York, their relationship intensified. Yates gave her a key to his apartment, encouraging her to use his kitchen whenever she wanted. Mia began creating dishes there, experimenting with combinations that would eventually form her restaurant's menu. When Yates came home from work, he'd taste her creations, offering honest feedback that helped refine her vision. "This is extraordinary," he said one evening, sampling a dish she'd been perfecting. "The balance of flavors, the presentation, it's restaurant quality, Mia. Better than most places I've invested in." His belief in her talent bolstered her confidence. When her final semester of culinary school began, she approached it with renewed focus, impressing her instructors with her increasingly sophisticated techniques. Then came the evening that changed everything. Mia arrived at Yates's apartment to find him in the kitchen, attempting to cook. "What are you doing?" she asked, amused by the unusual sight. "Making a mess, apparently," he admitted, looking at the disaster surrounding him. "I wanted to surprise you with dinner." "That's sweet," Mia said, kissing him before surveying the damage. "But maybe stick to investing in restaurants rather than working in them." "Noted," he laughed. "There's actually another reason I wanted to cook tonight." He grew serious. "I wanted to discuss something with you." Mia felt a flutter of anxiety. "That sounds ominous." "Not at all." He wiped his hands and led her to the living room. "I've been thinking about your restaurant dream, about how to make it happen sooner rather than later." "Yates, just hear me out," he continued. "I've found a space. A perfect space for what you want to create. It's in Brooklyn, near enough to farms upstate for direct sourcing, with room for both a greenhouse and a dining room that seats 40. Mia stared at him. "You found a space?" "I had my real estate people looking," he explained. "No commitment, just exploration. But this place, Mia, it's perfect. And it's available now, which never happens in this market." Her mind raced with conflicting emotions: excitement at the possibility, fear at the scope of what he was suggesting, and a creeping discomfort about what it might mean for their relationship. "I can't afford a space like that," she said finally. "Not for years." "I want to invest," Yates said simply. "Not give you anything, invest as a business partner, because I believe in your vision and your talent." Mia stood up, needing physical distance to process his words. "This is a lot to take in." "I understand," he said, watching her carefully. "And if you're not ready, that's completely fine. The space will go to someone else and we'll find another when the time is right for you." "But why now?" Mia asked, turning to face him. "I just started my final semester. I don't even have my full business plan completed." "Because opportunities don't always wait for perfect timing," Yates replied. "And because I've never been more certain of an investment in my life." He crossed to her, taking her hands in his. "This isn't about us, Mia. It's about you and what you can create. Even if we weren't together, I'd make this investment." His words gave her pause. "Would you really?" Without hesitation. "I've built a career recognizing potential before others see it." His eyes held hers. "Let me show you the space. If you don't love it, we forget the whole thing." The next day, Yates took her to a former warehouse in a rapidly developing area of Brooklyn. As soon as they stepped inside, Mia felt at the potential of the space, with its high ceilings, exposed brick, and abundant natural light. The building even had a rooftop that could be converted into the greenhouse of her dreams. "This could work," she admitted, visualizing where the kitchen would go, how the dining room would flow. "But the renovation costs alone would be astronomical." "I've had estimates done," Yates said, pulling out a folder. "It's all here: renovation costs, timeline, even potential suppliers for the kitchen equipment. Review it, Share it with anyone you trust. I want you to be completely comfortable with every aspect." Mia spent the next week poring over the documents, consulting with her favorite culinary instructor, even hiring an independent consultant to review the investment structure. Everything checked out. Yates was offering a fair business arrangement that would give her majority ownership while providing the capital she needed. Still, something held her back. When she finally voiced her concerns to Yates over dinner at his apartment, he listened intently. "I'm worried about mixing business with us," she explained. "What happens if the restaurant struggles? Or what if our relationship doesn't work out? Everything would be tangled together." "Valid concerns," Yates acknowledged. "I've thought about them too. That's why I structured the investment through my company rather than personally, and why I've included a buyout clause that allows you to purchase my stake over time." "You've really thought of everything," Mia said, not entirely sure if that reassured or unnerved her. "I think about protecting the things that matter," he replied simply. "You matter, Mia. Your dreams matter. I want to help make them reality without complicating what's growing between us." His sincerity broke through her final reservations. "Show me the contract," she said decisively. 2 days later, she signed the papers that would transform an empty warehouse into Harvest, her very own restaurant. The timeline was ambitious. Renovations would start immediately, with a projected opening in 8 months, shortly after her graduation. As spring turned to summer, Mia divided her time between finishing culinary school, designing her restaurant, and deepening her relationship with Yates. He was true to his word about keeping business separate, bringing in a project manager to oversee the renovations and connecting Mia with industry professionals who could mentor her through the process. One warm July evening, as they sat on the partially completed rooftop garden of what would soon be Harvest, Yates seemed unusually quiet. "Everything okay?" Mia asked, nudging his shoulder gently. "Better than okay," he replied, looking out over the Brooklyn skyline. "I was just thinking about how much has changed since Julian's anniversary party, how finding you has shifted everything in my life." "For me too," Mia admitted. "Sometimes I still can't believe any of this is happening. The restaurant, us. It feels like a dream." "I have something for you," Yates said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small box and handed it to her. "It's not what you might think, so don't panic." Curious, Mia opened it to find a key. "Another key to your apartment. I already have one." "Not to my apartment," he said, watching her face. "To our apartment, if you want it to be." When her eyes widened, he continued quickly. "I bought a place in Brooklyn, closer to Harvest. It has a professional kitchen, outdoor space for your herbs, and 2 offices so we can each have our own space." "You bought an apartment," Mia repeated, stunned. "Without telling me." "I have a 30-day option on it," he clarified. "Nothing's finalized. I wanted you to see it first to make sure it feels right for both of us." He took her hand. "I know we haven't talked explicitly about living together, but these past months coming home to you in my kitchen, waking up with you beside me, it's shown me what I want our future to look like." Mia looked down at the key in her palm. "This is a big step." "It is," he agreed. "And if you're not ready, I understand completely. There's no timeline, no pressure. I just wanted you to know where my heart is." Looking into his eyes, Mia saw nothing but sincerity and love. Despite the whirlwind pace of their relationship, every step had felt right, as though they were finding their way together toward something extraordinary. "I want to see this apartment," she said finally. "Our apartment." The Brooklyn brownstone Yates had found was even more perfect than he'd described, a renovated historic building with modern amenities and character to spare. The kitchen made her gasp, and the private rooftop garden offered both city views and ample space for her beloved herbs and vegetables. "What do you think?" Yates asked as they stood in what would be their bedroom, sunlight streaming through tall windows. Mia turned to him, emotion welling in her throat. "I think I love you, Yates Montgomery, and I think I'd love to live here with you." His kiss was tender, full of promise and possibility. "I love you too," he whispered against her lips. "More than I ever thought possible." As summer faded into fall, Mia graduated with honors from culinary school. Yates hosted a celebration dinner at their new home, inviting her parents, Julian and his girlfriend, and a few of her closest friends from school. Watching Yates charm her father and help her mother with her coat, Mia felt a surge of certainty that she'd found her partner in every sense of the word. The restaurant construction progressed quickly. By October, the kitchen equipment was being installed, and Mia had finalized her opening menu. Yates accompanied her to farm visits, helping forge relationships with local producers who would supply Harvest's ingredients. "You don't have to come to all these meetings," Mia told him as they drove back from an upstate cheese producer. "I know how busy you are with your own business." "I want to be part of this journey with you," Yates replied. "Besides, I'm learning so much about sustainable agriculture that it's influencing some of my other investments." Their partnership, both personal and professional, flourished. Mia brought creativity and culinary expertise. Yates contributed business acumen and industry connections. When challenges arose, permit delays, equipment backorders, budget overruns, they faced them together, finding solutions that often improved on the original plans. In November, as Harvest neared completion, Yates surprised Mia with news that would further entwine their futures. "I've been offered a seat on the board of the National Restaurant Association's Sustainability Committee," he told her over dinner one night. "They want someone with investment experience who understands the challenges of farm-to-table concepts." "That's incredible," Mia said sincerely. "You'd be perfect for it. I recommended you instead," Yates replied, watching her reaction carefully. "As a new restaurateur with formal training and a commitment to sustainability, they want to meet with both of us next week." Mia stared at him. "Me? On a national board? I don't even have a restaurant open yet. But you will in 2 months, and your perspective is valuable precisely because you're building from the ground up with sustainability as a core principle." He reached for her hand. "You don't have to accept, of course. But I think your voice deserves to be heard." His unwavering belief in her continued to amaze Mia. Throughout their relationship, Yates had never once treated her culinary ambitions as less important than his business empire. Instead, he'd consistently elevated her work, recognizing its value not just to her, but to the broader food community. The board position turned out to be a perfect opportunity for Mia to connect with industry leaders who could mentor her through Harvest's early days. As December arrived and the restaurant's opening date approached, she found herself surrounded by a network of support that extended far beyond Yates. 2 weeks before Harvest's grand opening, Mia arrived at the restaurant to find Yates already there, deep in conversation with a woman she didn't recognize. "Mia," he called when he spotted her. "Come meet Deanna Lawson. She's the food editor for the Tribune." Mia froze momentarily. The Tribune's food section was influential enough to make or break a new restaurant. "Miss Lawson, it's an honor," she said, extending her hand. "We're not quite ready for review yet." "Not here for a review," Deanna clarified with a warm smile. "Yates and I serve on a hunger relief board together. He mentioned your commitment to donating unused ingredients to community kitchens, and I'd like to do a feature on sustainable restaurant practices, with Harvest as the centerpiece." The resulting article, published the week before Harvest opened, brought attention not just to Mia's restaurant, but to her entire philosophy of seasonal, sustainable dining. Reservation requests flooded in, overwhelming the booking system Yates had helped implement. "We're fully booked for the first 6 weeks," Mia told him in disbelief, staring at her computer screen. "This is beyond anything I could have imagined." "It's exactly what you deserve," Yates replied, his pride evident. "Your talent and vision did this, Mia. The article just helped people discover what I already knew." Opening night was magical. The restaurant glowed with warm lighting, each table adorned with herbs grown in Harvest's own rooftop garden. The kitchen hummed with focused energy as Mia led her small but talented team through service. Yates stayed in the background, helping where needed but ensuring the spotlight remained firmly on Mia. As the last guests departed, leaving behind empty plates and effusive compliments, Mia finally allowed herself to collapse into a chair, exhausted but exhilarated. "We did it," she breathed as Yates sat beside her, placing a glass of champagne in her hand. "You did it," he corrected gently. "I just helped clear the path." Mia shook her head. "No, this was us. Different skills, same vision." She raised her glass. "To partnerships that work." "To partnerships," Yates agreed, clinking his glass against hers. Then, setting it down, he reached into his pocket. "Speaking of partnerships," Mia's breath caught as he revealed a small velvet box. "Yates, I had a whole speech planned," he said with a nervous laugh. "About timing and certainty, and how some investments pay dividends beyond anything you could calculate." He opened the box to reveal a stunning emerald ring surrounded by small diamonds. "But sitting here, seeing everything you've created, all I can say is that I love you, Mia Velasquez. I love your passion and your determination. I love the way you care for everyone around you. I love that you've made me part of something real and meaningful." He took a breath. "Will you marry me?" Tears filled Mia's eyes as she looked from the ring to the man holding it, the man who had believed in her dreams as fervently as his own. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Mia marveled at how perfectly it fit, just like everything in their whirlwind romance had somehow fit, each piece falling into place as though designed for exactly this outcome. "The emerald reminded me of your herb garden," Yates explained. "Growing things, nurturing them, it's who you are. It's perfect," Mia said, admiring how the stone caught the light. "Just like this night." They married 6 months later in Harvest's rooftop garden, surrounded by flowering herbs and vegetables that would later grace the restaurant's tables. Julian served as Yates's best man, teasing them both about how his anniversary party had changed their lives. "If I'd known my bartender would end up marrying my investor, I'd have charged more for the drinks," he joked during his toast, raising laughter from the intimate gathering. Mia's father, moving more slowly now but determined to walk her down the aisle, beamed with pride as he placed her hand in Yates's. Her mother cried happy tears, whispering that she'd never seen her daughter so radiant. The reception was held in the restaurant below, where Mia's team prepared a feast showcasing the finest seasonal offerings from their partner farms. As guests dined and celebrated, Yates pulled Mia aside for a quiet moment. "I have a wedding gift for you," he said, handing her an envelope. Inside, Mia found legal documents transferring his ownership stake in Harvest entirely to her. "What is this?" she asked, confused. "You're giving up your investment, not giving it up," Yates explained. "Transferring it to a trust in your name. You've already made the restaurant so successful that my investment has grown considerably. This ensures that Harvest will always be completely yours, regardless of anything else." "But we're partners," Mia protested. "In everything." "We are," he agreed, taking her hands. "But your restaurant should be solely yours, your vision, your creation. My gift is removing any complication that might ever arise from our personal relationship being tied to your professional achievement. The thoughtfulness of the gesture moved Mia deeply. Throughout their relationship, Yates had consistently demonstrated his respect for her independence and her dreams. This final separation of their business and personal lives was the ultimate expression of his belief in her. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything, for believing in me from the beginning, for knowing exactly what I needed even when I didn't." "Always," Yates promised, kissing her gently as their guests continued celebrating around them. As their first year of marriage unfolded, Harvest flourished, earning a coveted Michelin star and recognition as one of the city's most innovative dining experiences. Yates's business expanded too, with a new focus on sustainable agriculture investments inspired by his experiences with Mia's restaurant suppliers. They settled into a rhythm that balanced their demanding careers with their life together, often working late but always finding time to connect. On Sunday mornings, they cooked elaborate brunches in their brownstone kitchen. Weekday evenings might find them collaborating on new dishes for Harvest or discussing potential investments for global innovation partners. Their partnership deepened through shared challenges and celebrations. A year and a half after their wedding, as they sat in their garden watching the sunset, Mia rested her head on Yates's shoulder. "I've been thinking about expansion," she said quietly. "For Harvest?" Yates asked. "A second location?" "Not exactly," Mia replied, taking his hand and placing it gently on her stomach. "A different kind of expansion, one that might require some schedule adjustments in about 7 months. It took Yates a moment to understand, but when he did, his face transformed with joy. "You're pregnant?" Mia nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "We're going to have a baby." The kiss they shared was tender, full of wonder at this new chapter unfolding before them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of promise, Mia marveled at the journey that had brought them here, from a chance meeting at a friend's anniversary party to a life built on mutual respect, shared dreams, and deepening love. "Are you happy?" Yates asked softly, his hand still resting protectively over their growing child. "Completely," Mia answered, knowing it was true. In Yates, she had found not just a partner but a champion, someone who valued her ambitions as much as his own. In their life together, she had discovered that love, like the perfect recipe, required quality ingredients, careful attention, and the courage to create something new. "Me too," he said, wrapping his arms around her as the first stars appeared above them. "More than I ever thought possible." As twilight deepened into night, they remained in their garden, planning and dreaming of their child's future, of Harvest's continued success, of the life they would build together. The path ahead would undoubtedly hold challenges, but Mia faced them without fear, secure in the knowledge that some connections, once forged, only grow stronger with time. And it had all begun with a Manhattan, perfectly crafted, at a party where neither had expected to find anything more than a pleasant evening. Instead, they had found each other, and in doing so had created a recipe for a life more satisfying than either could have imagined alone.